Republic of Indonesia is located off the coast of Southeast Asia. It comprises 17,508 islands and is the world's largest archipelagic state. With a population of over 234 million people, Indonesia is the world's fourth most populous country. Indonesia's motto is Unity in Diversity. Indonesia is a country where over 742 different languages and dialects are spoken, and 342 distinct ethnicities are represented. Muslims, Protestants, Catholics, Hindus, Buddhists, and Confucianists live side by side. Approximately 90% of Indonesia's inhabitants are Muslim. Indonesian cuisine is as diverse as Indonesian culture. The most popular Indonesian dishes are those that are most common all over Asia. Rice is a staple food in Indonesia. Gado-gado is a popular Indonesian cuisine comprising a vegetable salad served with peanut sauce dressing. Nasi goreng is the Indonesian version of fried rice. This popular dish has hundreds of variations. Soto is an Indonesian cuisine mainly comprised of broth and vegetables. It is also prepared with meat or chicken. Sotos are differentiated by the ingredients in them, such as soto ayam, meaning chicken soto, or soto kambling, meaning mutton soto. Soto padang is beef soup. It is often eaten for breakfast or brunch. Fried snacks like kubola, pastel, martabak mini, and risoles are also very popular Indonesian foods. The Indonesian consulate opened in 1956. It is also referred to as the House of Indonesia. The consulate hosts cultural activities throughout the week, such as dance classes and language classes. They invite people from other embassies, universities, and the general public to come to the consulate and partake in Indonesian culture.
As a consul general, of course, I always try to show off to all of the people here in New York in every activity of us. We show our culture, and then also every week we also have Indonesian dances class, and then also Indonesian language class, just to learn or maybe ask all of the people from the university to try to learn to know our culture, our language, and our Indonesia itself.
Children's Day celebration. For those of
The consulate hosts an annual Children's Day. The dancers performing at the Children's Day are from Bali. They came to the U.S. through a cultural dance exchange program at the National Dance Institute. They performed traditional Balinese dance to Indonesian gamelan music. Gamelan is a kind of musical ensemble of Indonesian origin. A gamelan as a set of instruments is a distinct entity built and tuned to stay together. Gamelan typically features a variety of instruments such as metallophones, xylophones, gongs, and bamboo flutes. Instruments from different gamelan are not interchangeable. New York City attracts jazz lovers from around the world. America was the home of jazz greats like Louis Armstrong, Miles Davis, Pat Metheny, John Coltrane, and Oscar Peterson. Niall came to the United States to pursue his love for jazz music. He enrolled in Berklee College of Music for his undergraduate degree, and then completed his master's degree in jazz music at the world-prestigious Juilliard Conservatory. Niall practices jazz piano at the Indonesian consulate every week with Consulate General Tri Idi Mulyani. Mrs. Mulyani is an avid jazz lover.
No, I never heard them at all till there was you. There were birds on the sky, but I never heard them singing. No, I never heard them at all till there was you.
I first heard jazz music in the house in my father's record collection. He's a musician, he's a bass player and a saxophonist, alto saxophone. So there was always lots of music, like Louis Armstrong and Oscar Peterson and David Sanborn. And then when I was 15, he took me to a concert. Pat Metheny, a guitar player, he was doing a tour in Southeast Asia. So we went together, and the music really spoke to me. I think just the creativity in jazz and the way he interacted with the other musicians. He was so free on stage, and he was so comfortable in expressing himself, and I just liked the feeling of the music. Makes me want to learn it, want to study it. You know. My father's parents didn't let him to be a professional musician. So when he saw that I was really interested, he said, you know, go ahead, because he wanted to fulfill his dream also.
20 years lives life forever, and 20 years brings forth truth, and 20 years is our friendship is 100 proof. The future that circles Rayuk hangs in the southern sky. The blankets they give the Indians only make them die, but sing a song forgotten for so long. Let the music flow like light into a rainbow.
New York City is the quintessential transnational city. 28% of its inhabitants are foreign-born. Unlike most other cities in the U.S., in New York City, nearly every ethnicity is represented. There are about 800,000 Muslims in New York City and more than 100 mosques. In 1996, Imam Shamsi Ali was named one of the most influential religious leaders in New York by New York Magazine. Imam Shamsi Ali leads 1,000 Muslims in worship at the Indonesian Cultural Center in Queens, 4,000 Bengalis at the Jamaica Muslim Center, and lectures to crowds of 6,000 at the 96th Street Mosque in Manhattan, New York City's largest mosque.
Even before Islam came to Indonesia, Indonesian people are peaceful people. They are very much peaceful in manner. So when Islam came, this became very easily assimilating into the nature of the Indonesian people. So Indonesian people are very friendly, very peaceful, very humble, very soft, people. And even until today, despite many uneasy or tensions in many parts of the world, Indonesians are still peaceful in their manner or in response to such situations.
Indonesia has the world's largest Muslim population. Islam came to Indonesia through peaceful traders from China and India. Today, nearly 90% of all Indonesians practice Islam, and this religion plays a significant role in the identity of Indonesian people. Coinciding with the 50th anniversary of Indonesia's independence on August 17, 1995, the Indonesian Muslim community purchased the land that was to be transformed into Masjid al-Hikmah. Far from their homeland, the Indonesian Muslims have used Masjid al-Hikmah as a focal point where they can meet one another and nurture their religious and cultural practices.
For us, the Indonesian mosque, which is called Masjid al-Hikmah, is a community based for the Indonesians, Muslims here in New York. Here in this place where the Muslims are coming to revive their faith, to enhance their knowledge of Islam. And not only that, but also their culture as the Indonesians, because in fact, in the way we practice Islam are related to our culture too. Like celebration of the birth of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ's birthday of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. I think there are some communities around who are very strict and say that this is prohibited in Islam because Prophet Muhammad didn't do it, the companions didn't do it. But for us, it is not a rituals. Any non-rituals in Islam are not prohibited as long as it doesn't contradict to the teachings. So it is a cultural practices. So we do that, and this is what the people back home also do. So we preserve. And then the celebration of Isra Mi'raj, the ascension of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And not only that, but you know that the society where we live in, our kids are not, they don't at all listen into any religious discussion in the school or at schools, and even at home sometimes because parents are busy. So it's only the place for them to learn Islam, and so really it's a place for them to preserve the identity, the culture, and the religiosity as well.
So that Muslims don't feel.
Dr. Salahuddin Karawi is an assistant professor of philosophy and religion at Moravian College in Pennsylvania. He was born in West Java, Indonesia. Salahuddin earned his degree in Islamic studies in Indonesia, Canada, and the United States. One of his main interests is multiculturalism in Islam. He gives the khutbah at Masjid al-Hikmah every other month.
The official of this mosque asked some people to give a khutbah prayer, to give a khutbah and lead the prayer on rotation basis. For example, some would give the khutbah once every month, and some other would give once every 2 months, etc., depending on their availability. And of course, there is also an imam over here, right? And this imam basically would lead the prayers and give sermons, etc. But what I like most from this mosque is the fact that it does not depend on one single imam to give sermons. To me, that is very meaningful. Why? The fact that there are so many people given the opportunity to give khutbah, to give sermons, that would automatically enhance the perspectives of the people who come and listen to the speeches. And that is in line with the Islamic support of multicultural values. And that is in line with our American values, right?
Ridwan Falah is a 27-year-old high school teacher living in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. He is originally from Indonesia. He came to the U.S. when he was 7 years old and in the 2nd grade.
Okay, I came here when I was 7. At first I lived in Queens in Sunnyside for about 3 years. Then I moved here to Manhattan, and I've been living here for the past 17 years now. I have no brothers and sisters. I'm the only child. I'm married, alhamdulillah, for 3 years now, 3.5 years. And my wife, Lubinsky, she's actually from Dominican Republic. She was born in Puerto Rico. Her parents were from Dominican Republic, but she grew up here in New York in Washington Heights. My family first came to the US, I think, in 1978. My father maybe a little bit before that. He first moved down to Miami. He got a job he got a job in a cruise ship, and he lived in Miami for some time. Then he moved to New York, where he got a job at the United Nations at the Brunei mission. Then he brought my mom over, and they both worked there. And then they brought me over in 1986. And they've been working in the Brunei mission. They were working there for about 20 or something years until they retired last year. At first I missed Indonesia only because, you know, my grandmother was there, and she took care of me for, you know, when I was very young, when my parents were away. And yeah, I did miss it.
But alhamdulillah, after a while, I got used to the environment and I didn't miss it as much. I didn't have as much freedom to play around as I did in Indonesia. So that's one thing that I miss, just being able to roam around unsupervised and explore different parts of the village or town. I couldn't do that. My parents would just, I had to go out when they went out, and obviously you can only go out in the summertime. Wintertime was too cold. So as far as my school is concerned, I think I was the only Indonesian. I don't remember having any Indonesian classmates or friends in school. Even though in my neighborhood there were a lot of Indonesians, I think for my age I was the only one. Either that or they were slightly older than me. My parents, I guess, kept me up to date with the culture. Is that at home we spoke the current dialect or the local dialect where I'm from, which is called Sundanese. Indonesian is the national language, but I didn't learn it as much because it's formally taught in school, and I had to leave there when I was first grade, and I came out in my second grade actually. So at home we spoke Sundanese, and that was basically the only language spoken at home. Retained my native tongue, and of course my parents, they cooked Indonesian food, so alhamdulillah, I was able to eat that, remember the types of food. For me, going to Indonesia is like vacation. So, and it's very relaxed, it's very slow paced, so it's a nice change of environment and definitely a great escape from this, New York City. At first, when we moved here, we would go there almost every 2 years. Obviously, all my relatives are there actually. Right now, I only have 3 cousins living in the United States. All my parents' relatives, all my uncles and aunts and all my cousins are in Indonesia. We used to go out almost every 2 years, but then when I got into high school, it was more difficult because I had to work or I had internships during the summer. So I think last time during high school, it was before high school started, and then I went to Indonesia again after I went to high school, after I graduated high school. And then after that, it became pretty much like every 4 years or just whenever I had time. I went to Indonesia, I believe, last year. I think Indonesian culture is more of my parents' culture. As for me, I guess since I've been living here, I've grown to be part of this culture, American culture. But at the same time, I don't focus on culture as much as my parents. I can't hide the fact that I'm Indonesian. There's a part of me that will always be Indonesian. I eat Indonesian food, I speak the language, I go back to Indonesia. But this is where I live, and to me, culture is not as an important part of my life. It's not a main identifier in my life. To me, being a Muslim and being a member of this community or whatever community that I'm a part of, that's something that I emphasize more.